I just wanted to ask both of you a little bit how the transition went and moving things over. Tony, you departing and going on Land and Imagination after that. And Kim, you seeing all of these ideas that they had and how you and Tim started to work together. We're going to bring Tim up in just a few minutes too. So what was that like, the transition?
The transition, well, first.
You saved my life.
I mean, I can't not say a few words about, Tony's involvement, which was spectacular and emotional and artistic and, just mind-boggling, and yet it was heartbreaking. Mm-hmm. When Tony had to move off the project. And, my side of it was getting wet, and is it cold, is it warm? Wow, that stuck me in the butt. Oh, gee. So mine was very much on the real side of things. And you've seen all the art and his description of the importance of music and so forth. So that was a big transition. And in fact, if you had the opportunity to go to the Living Seas, and you kind of go into the bowels of the pavilion, the ride vehicle area and some of the actual physics of it are still there. Yeah. And sadly, they became offices. So you'd go in there and find somebody, scratching themselves, and it was Poseidon, just a few months ago. But so Tony went on, and he and I talked.
Well, actually, yeah. We did some work on the Land Pavilion, which was extraordinary too. And then I got pushed off of that. Yeah. And what was next was me coming down to Marineland, where Kim was still, the lead down there, head of it. And I said, what am I going to do? I feel totally depressed. I don't know what to do. And he was my big brother, my mentor. And what happened, he says, is there anything else you could do to get your mind off of all of this? And I said, well, I could go down and work on Big Thunder at Disneyland. And he said, you should do it. It might turn out to be something extraordinary for you. And at the time, we were talking saving the world with Epcot, and now I'm going down to work on a roller coaster, but when I got down there, what he had suggested was changed my life. I learned so much, and I look forward every day to watching that grow and come to life. I even was able to bring my dad, who grew up in the Sierra Mountains in California, and would take me hiking and fishing up there. And now I was bringing my dad to see me building a mountain in Anaheim. That was crazy. And so it was one of the best things that ever happened. And then, of course, the end of the story was very happy, because just as I finished Big Thunder, I got a call and they said, we're a year late, but there's another company that wants to be there on opening day, and it's Kodak. Yeah. And they don't want any of the existing shows. They want a new thing based on imagination. So literally, if I hadn't have had Kim, and we had been working together since '76 on both this and on the Land.
The Land.
Yeah. So.
Well, and I don't know if we're going to tell the story of the Land, but again, Tony, he and I have this synergistic, characteristic, and I was kind of the biome person. Tony was creating this unbelievable amorphous crystalline facility that would have been one of the e-tickets of all time.
And we have to have Tony back at the next RetroMagic to do the Land, because we don't have enough time.
Well, anyway, when you do come to see his presentation of the Land, that was something where we just clicked, and it would have been...
It was a perfect balance, because everything he knew, I knew nothing about.
Yep.
And I kind of indoctrinated him into this crazy, getting people excited about technology through emotion and characters and engagement and stuff. And no, we never came up with a Wally water drop or anything for the seas.
Wally water drop. Oh. Well, we're going to invite Tim Delaney on stage here in a second. Tony, thank you very much. Tony's going to be back in our Imagineer Lightning Round later on with some other stuff that he wanted to show us. So thank you, Tony. You can stay there. And which seat do you want to take?
I'll put Tim there.
We're going to Tim here.
And then
I guess I can just hold this, huh?
Want to hold your Coke?
No, it's not mine.
Oh, thank you.
It's Kim. Give me it to Kim.
Have a seat
Oh,
right
great.
there.
Thank
There's
you
some
very
water
much.
there.
You can go there.
Is the
Okay.
rum
Hal,
still
here's your
in this
water.
Coke?
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
right.
I hope so.
So please welcome Tim Delaney.
Thank you.
Both Tim and Kim will also be in our lightning round later on because you had so much Epcot stuff to show us.
absolutely.
You were sitting in your office on Zoom and it was like, you started pulling out papers and bringing up, I was like, okay, we need a whole separate section for that. But
Before you start,
yes.
I need to interrupt.
Oh,
Okay?
absolutely.
First of all, I just want to say to this guy, what a thrill it is to be up here with him for all the things that he's done. And we're going to talk about a bunch of more stuff, but I just say that's first. Secondly, I actually want all of you to imagine what it's like to do a Tony Baxter project once his project's been canceled. It's a bit daunting and challenging and really quite
The wrong PowerPoint. Okay.
really challenging. And I'm going to explain how we try to integrate some of his things from that original Seas Pavilion, which I thought was, I mean, we all knew was great, but the fact is that what we needed, we needed to go and move and get what we needed to get out of the seas. So anyway, so please start.
Oh, thank you very much. So, so we're going to put on the screen here a couple of things. We have two PowerPoints. We pulled up the wrong one. We should have put this all into
they picked the wrong
one.
PowerPoint.
So, but we're going to go through here. Yeah. So you sent me a lot of different items and a lot of different things, and you put together all of the artwork that you did, and that's what we're going to see here.
Yeah.
And Kim's going to, getting into the technical side of things and the tank, and you sent us a lot of videos of you doing things with animals, and we have a few of them. We got one of them in here for you too, so which is particularly great. So, yeah, so let's start at the.
Can we go back to the original, those
Oh,
those
absolutely.
One of the challenges we had for the Living Seas Pavilion was getting the pavilion sold to a sponsor. This was a really a big challenge. When you think of all the sponsorships that you have here with Coca-Cola and Kodak and GM and all of those companies had products that they wanted to sell, and this was part of what this synergy was going to be with Disney. It was really important, but there was nobody out there actually in the oceans business. Not many people in the public are buying submarines and doing things like that. So we were constantly trying. Kim was on the road. We were always trying to get sponsorships. United Technologies, thank God, came in. So these two pieces of artwork I created something that we really wanted to graphically represent and tell what the Living Seas Pavilion was all about. It was really not an aquarium. It was going to be man's involvement, whether it's from mythology to man's involvement into the oceans and seeing how we can work with this life support system for Spaceship Earth. So that's the poster on the left, I hope it's on the left, shows a little bit of that. The one on the right was an Oceans magazine, and again, this was a combination storyline that when we did this article, it was all about human beings and nature coming together, and that was really the key. And it was this adventure into a frontier that Epcot was really the basis of. And so that's what these came from.
I've got to say, of all of the things, Tim's an extraordinary artist, but the painting on the right has always been one of my favorite things. It's just so evocative of there you are down there at about 95 feet, and just amazing.
Oh, thank you. I think somebody told me, or I think you mentioned that this was the first time Oceans magazine had ever had a painting on the front cover.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Sorry. There you were, putting your foot into the surf.
So we ended up, obviously, needed to do a great pavilion, and I said, all right, it has to have some of that rotational feel like Tony had in his original, which was obviously a really beautiful building. Unfortunately, we only had the budget issue I'm not going to go into. It was just a real challenge. But I was excited about this mural that was going to be this beautiful, colorful metal leading you into, colors and all that leading you into the entrance to the pavilion. And then the budget came in and they said, well, no. And I said, oh, I meant to say this beautiful tile. No. How about some really nice paint on that wall? And that's actually what happened, because what happens when you do these projects, you have all your favorite candies and desserts in front of you that you've created. And at some point, you'd like to have them all, but you can't. So you pick and choose the right ones. So we moved to the inside, and we now begin telling the story. Let's go to the next image. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Yeah, this is fine. So anyway, what you're going to see here is a whole series of paintings and drawings that basically I did as a walkthrough that you go through. You are seeing the tip of the iceberg here in terms of the amount of work that has to go into these things, meeting with your team, talking with Kim, talking with our consultants, talking with our advisory board. What are the things that we need to do? So I'm just showing you the renderings. Behind this are studies, sketches by the thousands. And so that is a process which I think people all kind of generally talk about, but we don't really know, because for all of us over here, we know what this process is and we know what it takes to do these things. So this is the Living Seas Pavilion. United Technologies paid $80 million to have their name on a rock. And I think it's just, and it splashes in front of it. So it was great.
Kim, could you real quick, I know you had a story about how you actually got United Technologies to sign on as the sponsor.
Well, as Tim and a lot of people at Imagineering realize, UTC was very interested in sponsoring the Space Pavilion. And we did have some very evocative art, some lovely art. I'm not sure who did it.
I did some of it.
Did you do it? Can it be? That's an old
That was this one.
So we had this wonderful art, and UTC would fly in, with like 4 planes full of people. And they would go through the model shop, and they would see, and through the drafting rooms and so forth, they would see all of this. Hopefully, they would see all of the Space Pavilion. But instead, we showed them the Living Seas because we had done a lot of work on it. And at one time, Card Walker had said, we're going to build the Living Seas with or without a sponsor because it's going to be that good. But then Card retired, and so that went away. And UTC kept coming out, and then finally we got a call, and from, I'm not sure who it was.
P. Clark? I was sponsorship?
Could have been P. Clark. And they said, well, UTC would like to come out with, and I'm sorry, I have word retrieval problems, which Tim's going to help me with. There is Harry Gray. Harry Gray and Helen Gray. They were the CEO and wife of the CEO. And Tony Ottorino, of course I remember his name.
Yeah.
And his wife. And they wanted me to give them a presentation, just the 5 of us, on the Living Seas. And we all kind of felt, well, they just were wanting to further their excitement about sponsoring a pavilion at Epcot. So we went into the Redwoods room at the Contemporary, and there was Ron Miller's and Diane Disney's wine. We had about 5 or 6 bottles of their wine in the room, and cheese, lots of cheese. And we sat down, and they said, go ahead, Kim. And so I was basically showing them, Tim's and Tony's, some of Tony's philosophy and Tim's art and my 2 cents. And we went on for 5 hours, and by then the wine was totally gone, and and Harry was over there waking Helen up, and so the meeting kind of wound down, and then suddenly Harry looked over at Helen, his wife, and said, "Well, Helen, what do you think?" And she said, "Well, Harry, if you want to sponsor the best thing, and pardon anybody else can relate closely to a pavilion, but if you want to sponsor the best thing at Epcot, this is it, the Sea Pavilion." And he said, "Well, blah, blah, blah." And they got up and we shook hands and staggered out and went, and we didn't hear from them again for like 6 months. So we were so up and then we were so down.
Yeah, it was
But
tough.
all of a sudden, we got a call, and I don't remember the exact sequence, but they wanted to hold their board of directors meeting at the Americas Pavilion. You know, they were going to fly in, and all these people were going to show up. And they announced at their board of directors meeting that they were going to sponsor the Living Seas. So, you know, I had to get the grass stains off of my clothes because I was so mind-boggled. And even though they weren't in the seas, they were rich and they were going to pay the most money, actually,
Yeah, they did.
of
They did.
any of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
pavilions. So it was a strange storyline that got us there, but it worked.
I assure all of you, the reason they did that is because of this guy right here, okay? It wasn't my artwork, it was this guy right here.
That's only because I only drank half a bottle of wine. They drank.
He always does it, I'm telling you it was him. There was a sketch that I just wanted to talk about, is that we began our story of mankind getting into the getting into the oceans. And you know, we actually did all this, including, you know, ancient submarines that were being built, and you know, and then we came to this section here with 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And our good friend Tom Sherman had built a big Nautilus submarine, and we had dive suits, and you know, I mean, it's really, there was really pointing out that there was not only a storyline for the pavilion, but there's a legacy that came, you know, from Disney itself. So one day we get a call, and go to the next slide. Kirk Douglas had been shooting a commercial and over at the Japan Pavilion. And so they wanted to bring him in. And so Kim and I, and the actual whole team, we were kind of walking him through this queue line. And he comes to this model of the Nautilus and that poster there. And he just stops and he's like, oh my God. And you could see the look on his face that this really meant something to him. It was really extraordinary. And Kirk says, I'd give anything to get that kind of poster. And I said, well, give me your information. And I sent him the poster, and not long after that, I got a written note from Kirk Douglas. And I was like, oh my God. so anyway, so now we're going to kind of do a walkthrough, and this was the entrance to Living Seas Pavilion. We all have this whole thing about putting kinetics in the theme park, and so, you know, in this case, we had a big wave splashing, and it was really quite effective, I think, for for what it was supposed to be.
And there's a funny story about that. I think, was it Hugh Darley told that story?
Yeah.
Yeah, a funny story. So if you go back and watch the Hugh Darley session from RetroMagic, Epcot 40, great story about how powerful that cannon was. If you haven't heard it, I'm going to play it for you. Okay.
So getting into this and beginning again, I was trying to keep the spirit of what Tony's concept of this fantasy seas part of it was all about. And you can go to the next slide too. I tried doing these two things, and you know, I mean, I'm not doing the credit that Tony had done to it, but we were trying to hold on to this one for just a moment. And but there was something, this essence of the oceans themselves. When you think about it, there are more stories and legends about the oceans because of the mysterious aspect of it. And beginning this pavilion and following in Tony's footsteps with, and I'm going to say Poseidon because that's what I'm just used to, but having this kind of mythological thing and dispelling some of these myths where the doors would then open, and now you go into this futuristic sea base. We go from the mythology part of the unknown to the world of going into a realm that was known. And that's what our goal was from the storyline. It was reduced down, but it was certainly inspired by Tony's earlier direction. So I'm going to the next one. So we all know, Paul Gerber's film, it's like it rained, and we all know that. But there was one element that I have to admit that Paul Gerber put into that movie.
Yes,
and that
I know
was,
exactly what you're going to talk
there
about.
There it is.
Right. Oh my
that
God.
kind of primitive sea base alpha, and the doors open, and there we see the hydrolators.
As a kid, that was the, you see all this stuff, and then they do that 3D fly-through,
Yeah.
and they paint up the vector, and you're like, oh, that looks really cool. And then when those doors split open, and you're standing in front of it, I mean, you just gasp.
Yeah.
The timing.
Even
the
little
timing
kids
is
can.
good. The thing that shocks me is, even these days, recently I was at an event and I was talking to a NASA scientist and I said something to him about like, well, I worked at Disney and did the Seas Pavilion, and immediately he goes, the hydrolators. These things, Kim Murphy came up with the name hydrolator, and we had to figure out what it was going to be. But this transition from the outside world, this transition from the outside world to the inside world was amazing. It even provided, you can obviously imagine the challenge that we have at United Technologies because Otis Elevator is one of their divisions. So Harry Gray says, hey, I got some great elevator designers that'll help you on your hydrolator. It's great. And so we were like, your designers design elevators that go 80 stories and you don't move. We're going to go a half inch and we want you to move. And so we did a lot of experimentation. I think the real breakthrough is we went to the Chicago Museum of Science and Industry, where they have this elevator that takes you down 3,000 feet into a coal mine. And they have these long, really must be 20 feet long, kind of rolling rockworks. So we thought, well, we're going to take a little bit of that, but we're going to do it even better. And so the interesting thing is the dynamics of what that hydrolator is about is that when you get these side walls moving, it's your peripheral vision that notices that. And I can prove it to all of you. If you've ever been at a stop sign, the bus is next to you and it starts to move, you kind of hit the brake because your peripheral vision sees that. So we design these things on a 6-sided part. And I'll tell you, I will never forget going in with a crowd, with an audience, or the guests for the first time. And I thought, oh, well, we'll see how it's going to go. They're going to laugh. I was cringing, right? The doors go open, go in, we do the whole thing, move the floor, do the wall. And it was a perfect sequence. We were going like, 25 feet down or something like that. And everyone's like the elevator's here, and people are standing in the elevator, like, doors open up, and they go out again. And they didn't question it. It wasn't long enough, they bought it all. But it's that kind of special thing that Disney does, and this is a small case of it, a really special thing that is that transition from the outside world into this world. So let's go to the next. So Kim, let's talk about
there has been this so-called myth about Disney getting sued because, and so I asked Kim, okay, this has been floating around for a while. Let's find out what the real truth of this is.
Well, Living Seas was, Disney was almost sued. The check was in the mail, almost. But we received a letter from a very powerful law firm, and I believe it was in Chicago, stating that the Schmedlap family, their son, had suffered perforated eardrum and was in psychiatric care because of his trip aboard the hydrolator, which ruined his life. And they were suing us for, money has changed, but it was somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.5 million. And I think it was Lee Schmoody, one of our more imaginative lawyers, but he wrote them a letter in describing the fact that, well, your son, bless his soul, actually dropped 3/8 of an inch with no atmospheric pressure change and should have let into the other side of my shirt and entered and proceeded with his life in fine fashion. So we never heard from them again, which was but it was amazingly effective to have a little movement and this much drop. You saw if you were in the hydrolator, you saw some people going.
Right. Oh. And when it would come up and the water would come where you were standing to look like the pressure had changed.
Yeah.
Like that was beautiful. All that, just so good.
Every trick in there.
Completely
Of course,
made us buy into it.
We fought like mad to have exit hydrolators.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning of some of our other battles.
Yeah, really it was. So from there, we actually get on our little cabs. I'm not going to tell you, the ride is way too short, but it's too complicated to get into that. But we enter into the main coral reef experience. Now, Kim, this is where your territory is golden on this. So, you should talk about our experience here.
We did, oh my gosh, we could just go on and on. But when you do something like the Living Seas, this hydraulic space, which became this ocean, I became aware of how brave the Walt Disney Company is, because we were going to do a variety of things that no one had ever done before in terms of an aquarium space or aquarium systems. And it became a real challenge to us to ultimately, we had to prove the things that we were going to do, that they were going to work. Because there were two or three people that got together in the United States that were the two of the top aquarium museum people that went to United Technologies and said, this is not going to work. You're going to have problems. You're putting dolphin in with coral reef fish and invertebrates and so forth. I'm going, wow, they're going to get diseases. And of course, the people at UTC were going, diseases? Oh, gee, holy mackerel. And then, and also, you've got acrylic panels, these acrylic panels that weigh tons. And in an aquarium, if you look through glass panels that are flat and you just go off to the side a little bit, the fish go from really beautiful to roar, so they have, there's a lot of distortion. With acrylic, that they were saying was going to make people ill, they're going to throw up, they're going to get seasick. With acrylic, it has the same meaning, the same optical qualities as water. So the index of refraction is the same. So when you're looking through acrylic, it's like looking through the acrylic, water, and you don't see any change at all. So you can get off to the side. For all of you that have been in the living seas, you can get way off, or you don't notice any distortion at all. And there were other things, and we had to prove all of these things ultimately. And the one, I think Tim had a lot to do with the whole acrylic thing and the shapes and these beautiful spaces. But we had to go down to the manufacturer of the acrylic, and we had them do a 10,000 gallon, like a concrete place with an 8 by 6 opening where we put a piece of acrylic in, and then we had their guys ground these big, wallows and valleys into the acrylic and then polish it. So when you looked at the acrylic without water in it, it was just roar, like the mirrors at the Funhouse.
Yeah.
It was, would look like that. And then we put a grid behind it with horizontal and vertical lines.
I'm just going to fix this again.
Oh.
There's a lot of feedback for the folks up there, actually.
Sorry about the feedback. It was imported feedback, actually. So we put this vertical and horizontal grid behind this Galley West panel, and so the lines in the grid were all everywhere. And so we started, and we had the people that we were going to make the decision today, and the water started coming up in this, and you could see everyone that was standing there. We probably had like 20 people. Everyone that was standing there watching the water slowly come up, and you could see them all going like this. And lo and behold, as the water came up on that grid, those squiggly lines went straight as an arrow and straight across, and the Living Seas
Was born.
lived another day.
Let's
You
go.
wanted to go back here, right?
I want to go there. So again, a lot of the things to create visions of something is hypercritical when you're in the design business as well as selling business. A lot of these things, even to the Disney management, you have to say, this is going to be real. And what Kim had proposed was really challenging. I mean, I think we built the world's largest, at the time, acrylic panels, which hadn't existed. So again, I get to do the renderings and saying, this is what our vision is. And all the renderings are all about human beings in the water. Again, we didn't want to create an aquarium, but we wanted to show this interface. So let's go to the next one. So now you can talk about the structure of this thing. This is a powerful, powerful tank. I think it was the largest in the world, self-contained in the world when we
For
built
many,
it.
many years until Atlanta. A couple of things here. Well, you can see that it's a dynamic structure, and I'm virtually positive all of you have been to the Living Seas. But the tunnels, all of these structures, it's like a giant reservoir, basically, but it's full of salt water. And the salt water we made also. You know, we talked about running a pipe along the beeline from, from Ormond Beach, right to the pavilion. Okay, turn it off. That's it. And we were also going to make the seawater, so it had to be precise, not just in terms of sodium chloride and potassium and manganese, but right down to trace elements, because we were ultimately going to try to have not only fish of all types and mammals, but also invertebrates. So the water was quite complex. So one of the characteristics of the concrete of this big giant thing was to have epoxy-coated rebar. So the rebar was going to be kept at bay from any of the corrosive seawater. And seawater, as wonderful and beautiful as it is very, very corrosive. So we went ahead and built this thing with all of the rebar that we would bet our lives on, our wives' lives.
Our wife.
And
Yeah, don't go. It's 2025 right now. You can't see.
2025. And but years later, this is one of the things that what needed magic. Years later, all of a sudden, I got a call. I had the only office, by the way, in the entire Walt Disney Company that had a shower. And that brought me some major grief from Dick Nunes, who told me I was going to be camping on the Kamchatka Peninsula, in about 3 weeks. But anyway, so I got in my wetsuit, and the fellow said, "Mr. Murphy, some of the concrete is spalling, which means it's popping off of these areas of rebar." And it was on the tunnel initially. And I just looked at this and went, "Oh my gosh, this could be the end." So I got on the phone and talked to people at FIT, one of the colleges here, and UCF, and some other people. And what they came up with, which was brilliant, is they came up with cathodic protection, a major cathodic protection system that you would have on a huge vessel, like a Disney, a Disney ship, that would protect the hull from the corrosive elements of the sea. So we installed this thing, and if you were to look at if you had the opportunity to dive in the living sea, you'd see these anodes at various points. And that just turned the living seas into a ship that was protected basically forever. So
We're gonna ship on right now.
Okay, there we go.
All right, let's go. Let's
Wasn't
move
that
forward.
interesting though?
Thank you. I can tell who the chemistry students were here. Again, these are images of what the guests were going to experience. It was a real experience for our crew work here. Let's please go to the next one. I want to make sure that we do get through these. And again, I'm showing continual examples of like what we thought was going to be and what was really there. So, it's really important, to be consistent about this. Again, night view is going to be something different, it takes on a whole other new dimension. We can keep going.
Tim's art, by the way, so amazing.
All right, let's move on to Tim's art. And these are fantastic. I think that the interaction between the people in the intake module and our diving crew, Tim's crew that was out there, was just amazing. It was just so close. I want to get to the sea base really quick.
And I have to point out, the 2 slides ago, you showed the divers in the water with Sea Base Alpha behind it, and then you've got a live picture of what it was like after. You've captured so much. A lot of times you see renderings like we do now, like that's nothing like what we saw. Like your renderings really captured and were really precise and on with what we actually experienced. So that's
not only that, what we were talking about. Look at those people behind the acrylic, and look at the divers in the water. There's no distortion.
Yeah, there's an example, right? Yeah.
Anyways,
let's go to the next one. Yeah, this was one that we were trying to explain to people how big these windows are going to be, and this is the in-ocean module, and it was a free-form space. And it was, what we ended up doing is lighting the entire space very theatrically. So close to where the tunnel goes out, it's bright, and then it just disappears in the distance. The tank was itself 200 feet across, which was the right distance. I mean, and so actually lighting it that way and using theatrical techniques were great. The picture here that you see is also, we had this coral reef that we installed. It was a coral reef, and Kim said to me one day, "Listen, we got to go to Chicago." I'm like, what's in Chicago? He said, "Well, this is where we're building our coral reef." I went, "Oh, well, Chicago, coral reef, of course." So we went to Rush Studios, and I remember going to that old building on the 7th floor and hear these guys building all this coral reef that we had to ship all to Florida and glue together, and it was like I was still trying to figure out why they were in Chicago, but it's perfectly fine with us.
I'm
And here's
guessing
an
because of the
example
field aquarium.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure you're right. I'm sure that's what it was. So this is a real view. This is okay. And again, we did a lot of interaction with the dolphin that we had there with the divers, and please talk about that, Kim.
Well, again, I mentioned earlier, this was the first aquarium, surprisingly, that combined marine mammals and coral reef critters, as well as invertebrates and other locations. And though it had its challenges, not so much from the fact that could they live in the same place. The dolphin are very spunky, so we did have to eventually kind of keep the dolphin in one area, because the dolphin could beat the holy, because something or other out of the sharks, which you wouldn't think would happen. But we did have sharks and marine mammals, and even had sea lions in the beginning, and probably the healthiest, aside from Shark Reef, the healthiest aquarium anywhere in the world. So it was very, very successful. And you can see the dolphin enjoyed the people just as much as the people enjoyed the dolphin.
That interface was just amazing. Let's go to the next one. All right, so here we are. Now we're getting off the ride, and you're in the intake module, and you're on the lower level, and then you head into Seabase Alpha.
This picture is just stellar.
And again, the final product
Yeah.
looked exactly like this image.
Well,
Like,
look at that. And there. I mean, down to the
Yeah.
colors and the design. It's just fantastic.
I just say I was just lucky. It was a lucky guess. How about that? But the one thing that we did continually, not only was it designed to be this kind of pressure vessel, but that lockout chamber, which proved to be, I mean, Kim had a great idea about this. Let's put it in, and we put it at the far end. So at the far end of the sea base, so you actually had that visual connection. It wasn't a tank. We were at the ocean, under the ocean, and this lockout was at the far end. And also, the individual modules, which had all the individual shows in them, was placed out before you with this concourse and really high-tech looking kind of experience.
I think what sells it here too is the color scheme. It is so advanced, it's scientific, you're here, it's clean, and now it's just like 4 shades of blue, and it just doesn't exude the same power.
I do want to share one thing. I got called into Randy Bright's office. Now, this is going to be a little bit challenging. Living Seas Pavilion came in after Epcot had opened. And Epcot, which to me on opening day, every time I come here, it's just, I'm suddenly on that opening day when I come here. But Epcot didn't quite perform as much as possible. And Randy Bright, who was one of our creative executives, he sat me down, he says, whatever you do, you cannot go over budget. You cannot go over budget on this pavilion. Because if you do, there will be no more Imagineering. And I understood Randy's personality. His passion for the Disney company and the Disney product is extraordinary. And he said to me, I said, well, Randy, right now we're under budget. We ended up being under budget on the entire project. Plus, we brought in a sponsor. So it was really fantastic. And I said, but we're staying under budget. He goes, well, you got to continue to stay that way. And I go, well, we're doing the best we can. And he made reference to this particular scenario here. And he says, even if certain people in the company perceive that this was too overdone, they're going to be afraid that you're going to go over budget. And I said, Randy, I can't worry about people's perception of things. It's really tough, but this is the kind of pressure that was put on. And I totally understood everything Randy was doing, and we fought like crazy to hold on to this thing. And we did. I was really, the entire team is just fantastic. But every time I see this, I think of what Randy said, and I really appreciated what he said. But we had to fight, and we did it. So let's move on. Oh, the in-tank tube, it was, this was great. So Kim, you got to talk about this. This is an extraordinary thing where a human being comes out, talks to the guest, goes into this chamber, and goes into this tube, and it's like the guest can stand there looking right at them, and they're in this alien world, but alien world that's right here. And for some reason, for an obvious reason, it just really attracted, look at the people down there. It always drew a crowd. That interface between Kim's team, who were divers and scientists and all that, really, in my opinion, embodied everything what Epcot is and should be.
Did you ever think Hulk Hogan was going to go in there?
No, did he?
He did.
Oh,
They filmed an episode of Thunder in Paradise in there. And Seabase Alpha was used as an underwater jail, and the hydrolators were the jail cells.
Wow.
I'll get you the episode. You can watch it. It's unique. Let's say that.
It's heard.
You had a photo shoot inside of one of the in the lockout chamber one time, right?
And so I was going to go get my wetsuit on, and they said, no, just keep your clothes on. And that day, they were going to do this, fancy thing. So I had a sport coat on and slacks and Cole Haan. I borrowed Tim's Cole Haan shoes, and so they wanted me to get in the lockout chamber, and there's a picture of me with my tie going this way, and so
Were they trying to get rid of you?
shot out of the top. But it was extraordinarily popular.
Early iteration of that, again, these go through numerous iterations and designs. This was, doing concept work, you end up doing as many kind of crazy things as possible. I was kind of thinking we were going to do a, man interface entering into the oceans kind of thing. This didn't go very well with Marty. This was some of the bio labs that we had. You can go to the next one, and again, putting the diver in those tubes kind of really brought these things to life.
Yeah.
And again, it's part of this whole kind of experience, a total experience that you saw. The pavilion also included, the experience, the interactive with Nemo show, and then we had, Mike West's plate tectonic show with Atlas. Oh God, I almost forgot. It's been 43 years, so I'm trying to remember all that.
And Jason the robot. Yep.
Yeah. And Jason.
Yeah.
It was just great. A lot of little things.
And how many of you tried this suit on?
Yeah. So I have to say that, in this pavilion, we did have a lot of screens where there was a lot of Q&A and tests and kids and all that stuff. But there are certain things that sometimes, that gym suit that Sylvia Earle, actually she's famous for being this deep dive suit, was on our advisory board. So we said, we've got to create this mechanical thing. And it was all these tasks in front of you. And it, I was like, well, it's so simple. I'm like, that's what made it so work so
And
well.
there were little lights, if I call, right, Pal? They went from red to green.
If you
turn the wheel and
that's
the
right,
lever.
that's right.
Yeah, so you could. The idea was to move the crowd along, but that worked.
Let's go to the next one. Yeah, and also I think we were wanting to do some experimentation, with interspecies communication. I think there were studies that people had been doing, and so we wanted to showcase that.
That whole concept that you did of man and dolphin working together, it's so unique, cool.
It was really extraordinary.
Sea lions. We're also going to work with the divers for reconnaissance and recovery.
And there was a dog that,
Kai. Yeah, the dog we had an island in the Keys where we did our collecting and our training also, and it was, for those of you that know the Keys, it was just above Marathon, basically. It was called Little Conch Key. And we had this dog that kind of showed up one day, and became the mascot on the island, little 4-acre island. And he and the dolphin were just bosom buddies. As soon as he got out there, he was in the water, and as was my wife. No, we couldn't keep her out of the water either. But
So Kim, I'm going to have to ask you to retell a story that you told at the dinner the other night about Scuba's Mickey's very first entrance. So if you could, the entire crowd wasn't there, then they need to hear this.
Yeah.
well, all right. Well, there you can see Scuba Mickey, who is probably as popular, maybe the most popular diver we've ever had. And whenever Scuba Mickey was in the water, it was just everybody, was just cheering and chanting. And at the restaurant, of course, in fact, this was the restaurant that was the most difficult for us to get people out of, just because of what they were seeing. But one day, going through Tim's tunnels, and the Omnimovers, here they're looking out into the water, and it's beautiful. And then here comes Scuba Mickey, and everybody aboard the vehicles are going, "Oh my gosh!" Oh, and the first and second stage regulators in Mickey's head actually went from the person's mouth, in this case it was a young woman, to the front of Mickey's head. And as she's diving and waving and being adorable, being a manly mouse, and all of a sudden the hose clamp came off of that tube, and the next breath she received was salt water, and which she took down into, took a full gulp, and she, you really had to hand it to her because she didn't panic initially, but she's very heavy with all this, the suit on and everything else. And suddenly she couldn't get herself out. And nobody realized exactly what had happened. And suddenly, as the moving vehicles were going by, she tore her head off. And so Mickey tears his head off with a burst of bubbles. So you don't see her face or anything. You just see bubbles and Mickey's head going. And if you could have recorded the tunnel, it went something like, ready? People were looking at this and thinking, that's it? That's it. Mickey's, that's it.
He lost his head.
There goes his head.
Living Seas Pavilion, Mickey's accident.
We found out who did the tightening of the hose clamp, but it was one of Mickey's most memorable moments.
So I will say that there are so many aspects to this pavilion we could do hours on it, but we're hoping we give a good overview. The one thing that I shot here, this photograph here is the opening. When the change of administration came with Michael and Frank and that whole Disney management change, which was in the summer, I think, of '83. Once those guys were all announced in the company, they all kind of went underground. You didn't hear from them. It was like, because I know, and those of Imagineering, these guys were a whole team, an executive team that was Michael Eisner and Frank Wells brought in, were just planning their vision, their future for Walt Disney Company. So we opened this Living Seas Pavilion in January of '85. So that's a year and a half they'd been in. And this pavilion, the opening of this pavilion, there was a television special. You saw that John Ritter photograph, television special. And this was their big thing. Frank, dressed in a suit here, did the ribbon, cutting of the ribbon with Mickey underwater. He came flopping out with his fins for the official opening right here. And this was kind of their big coming out party. The big, this was now they've kind of established themselves. And from that moment, the company just had taken off. And I like to think that we kind of helped kick them off, getting in that direction.
Absolutely.
So it was amazing. Again, this is part of the teams that you saw, that we put together, the number of engineers, the consultants we had. Our advisory board was phenomenal. These are the Imagineers who you owe everything to when you do something. And it was just really a really, really spectacular and rewarding thing. So that's the team. And I'm a big Imagineering fan, even though, even though being there for 34 years. This is a picture, I really want to talk about this a little bit. This is Kim doing some gardening before we put water in the tank. And this is the care that we all did. Everybody was like doing their own thing. And this is when I want to tell this story. I used to fly back and forth from Los Angeles to Orlando because we were working on a lot of shows and attractions for the Living Seas Pavilion. So I came into town one day, and I'd been here for a couple of days, and I noticed there was, I'd go up to the upper catwalk. There was a catwalk above the tank, and there was this shark swimming all the way around the 200-foot diameter thing. It was this scrawny little, not little, it was about 5 feet long, but it was kind of this spotted shark. And so one night, Kim and I, it was late at night, we're standing up on this catwalk. And I say to Kim, what's with this shark? It keeps, and it just always stick to the edge, and it was not happy, okay? So I see Kim, and he's doing what he's doing right now. He goes, He says, hold on a second, I'll be right back. So he disappears. You probably don't remember this, but I'm telling you, it's indelible in my mind. He disappears backstage, and he comes back with 2 buckets. And about 20 feet away from me, he drops a bucket on the catwalk, and he comes walking up to me, and he hands me this bucket. And I said, okay, and it's fish parts with blood in it. He goes, when you see this shark come in, it's about 5 feet from here, dump it into the water, just spill it right over the water. I said, okay, so this shark goes right through it. And he's about 20 feet away. And I see him get down on his knees, and he reaches down. And I said, what are you doing? He goes, and he comes back, he goes, I took this big clump of squid and fish, and I shoved it into the shark's mouth, right? So I'm like, wow. The original Captain Hook. So I'm like, wow, that is dedication as far as I'm concerned. So a few months later, I'm coming back to the Living Seas Pavilion, and I'm scuba diving in there. And suddenly, the lights are all beautiful. And there's a shadow that goes over me. It's kind of like, the Star Cruiser in Star Wars. A shark goes over the top. It must have been 12 feet long or something. And I came up out of that tank, and I said, Kim, where did you get that? And he goes, do you remember that night? He says, from that moment on, that shark just started eating and growing and growing. I don't know how big that thing got. It was like a tiger shark, and it was gigantic.
Tiger shark went from, she was about 7 feet, about 6 feet in weight, 120 pounds when we brought her in. And when we let you go in and didn't tell you anything, she was about 12 and a half feet in weight, 1,100 pounds.
Well, let me just tell you, when you dive in the tank, I knew I was safe. You know why? Because it was a Disney shark. Oh, boy. So again, this is kind of our core team. Kim's in the middle. Next to him is Brock Thelen, the dark beard, who is our tried and true show set designer, who is like one of these true blue Imagineers who just is the foundation of what Imagineering is all about. Bill Bond next to him was our ride engineer. Alan Moyer, who we gave a really difficult project to, and he sat on these drawings and redlined everything until everything fit together. I mean, the building is enormously complex. That's all. And then, I was kind of the goofy guy. But this photograph is very emblematic as far as I'm concerned because, Kim is there in the middle. Tony referenced this guy being our big brother, and he is. And I can tell you that probably hundreds of millions of people have gone through this Living Seas Pavilion, and it's because of him.
Wow.
Last slide, please.
Last slides.
Calm down. Sit there. So, is there? Oh, okay.
We
so
have
we're running
one
out
little
of time.
video, yeah.
Just one more thing. I was just gonna say the 40th anniversary, the Living Seas Pavilion is now. All the Imagineers, cast members, scientists, marine scientists, every person who's worked in the Living Seas Pavilion. Nothing happens without all of you. It's such a pleasure, and I thank everybody. Kim and I thank everybody who works on it, has worked on it, has seen these millions of people go through this thing, and it really makes our job so exciting. So thanks to all of them. Thanks to them.
So the last item before we break for lunch, Kim, you had sent me a lot of videotapes when we first started talking of your animal talks, and I wanted to make sure that everybody here got to see one, so I picked the most appropriate one, and that would be you in the dolphin tank. So,
Oh, number 20. Oh, cool.
you can count down if you want.
Shout out to the post group at Disney MGM, wherever you are today.
They are fast, inquisitive, and intelligent. But just how smart are dolphins? And how well can they communicate with humans?
For the answer to these and other questions, let's go beneath the surface here at the Living Seas, where we're conducting research to see just how effectively humans and dolphins can communicate.
This is the communications keyboard. Toby and Bob are Atlantic bottlenose dolphin, and they use this keyboard to ask us for things that they want. They can tell us what kind of snack they'd rather have, or what kind of toy they would prefer to play with at the moment. This is where dolphins and humans actually interact. Bob makes his mind up as to what he wants, and then presses the key, activating the underwater audio that reinforces his decision. And the word it represents can be heard through underwater speakers. If Bob wants a herring, the diver can go through a series of questions to determine where the herring is, and Bob and the trainer can then swim to the location of that particular food or toy. It's too early to draw any real conclusions, but the program indicates the dolphins know what they want and they don't mind asking for it.
Conrad, have there been any surprises working with the dolphin on this particular research program?
Well, we all knew the dolphins are intelligent, but I think we've been surprised at how quickly the dolphins started hitting the keys on their own, because we didn't train them per se to use the keyboard. We simply had them follow us as we hit the keys. And they soon realized that they could make some interesting things happen themselves if they went over there and hit the keys.
With the dolphins' intelligence and curiosity, this should be a long-term project with a lot of potential as we understand more about the personalities of our friends beneath the oceans. From Epcot's Living Seas, I'm Kim Murphy.
That is great. That is fantastic. Wow. Yeah.
So thank you very much for coming to this. We are going to break for lunch. I know we're a little over. Are we adjusting any lunch times?
Your call, man. You're the boss.
How late are we over?
Doesn't matter. We'll start when we're ready.
There you go. Enjoy your lunch. We'll see you this afternoon.